Hey, Caleb here, the founder of Patriot Training Center with Carter, one of our instructor cadre. And today we're going to be talking about getting the cover garment out of the way, clearing the cover garment. Some people call it defeating the cover garment, which sounds a little dramatic. So it's not like something you got to spend a whole bunch of time on, but there are a couple tips I think that are like important and kind of stuff we figured out over time. And just the other day we were talking about it. I'm like, hey, how do you do this? Do you do this when you're drawing your gun and stuff like that? And we were kicking around some ideas, and I thought you guys might get some value out of it. So for me, if my hands are down by my side, then I'm normally going to just grab the cover garment. I'm going to lift it up. If I'm carrying appendix, obviously be a little different if you're drawing from the side, but coming from underneath with the garment, and I'm just going to lift it as high as I need to. That normally ends up about here, like sternum level, which is about the same height that my hands need to be when I go to put my support hand on the gun. Like, you know, part two of the draw stroke, if you want to call it that, right? So I'm pretty much just grabbing and pulling it up. If my hands are up in like this kind of position, then I'm coming down and I'm actually hitting down on my gun, and then I'm gripping my shirt there and pulling it up to the same spot. Most of the time, this is usually faster coming from hands down, but it just kind of depends where your hands are at. I try to consciously, when I'm gripping the garment, when I'm coming up, having my knuckles pointed down towards the ground, because I find that when I finally bring it all the way up and my knuckles turn this way, it grabs a little more of the fabric and gets a little more of the fabric out of the way, and that can kind of avoid, you see people getting their thumb or their hands caught up, or the gun, or maybe the optic caught in your
Especially when
shirt.
you're pushing speed.
Yeah, and that'll happen when you're pushing speed, and we'll talk about that a little more, but like, I think you should keep practicing this stuff and kind of figure out like where you're having problems. So if that happens a lot, then it's like, okay, let's back up and figure out like, why is that happening? Okay, maybe I have to move it just a little higher, or like I said, like maybe I have to grab it a little different when I'm pulling it up. And then Carter, I was talking to him the other day and asking him how he does it, so he'll explain how he does it.
Yeah, so actually, a couple months ago, I started videoing my draw stroke, which is a great practice to do when you're trying to get faster and more consistent. When you video something, you can slow it down and actually watch the mechanics of what you're doing at the actual pace that you'd be doing it in real life. So you can get a lot of value in that. When I started looking at those and studying those, I realized that when I'm fumbling my draw, like Caleb was talking about, where you get it hung in your shirt, I'll just double check. Clear gun. Um, when you get it caught in your shirt like that, I just wasn't getting my stuff high enough. So what I ended up doing, and I realized through looking at that dry fire, is I needed to adjust my hand position a little bit to come a little bit closer to the gun. Because what I was doing is I was kind of, in the interest of speed, if I was down at my side, I was grabbing over here. But I made the change to come a little bit more to the middle, 12 o'clock, and pulling higher, pinning it up almost at my sternum, like Caleb said. And it doesn't slow me down at all, because when I gather, I've already cleared everything, so I can drop my cover garment here, and it puts me in a great position to build that grip. Instead of trying to play catch up and grabbing my grip out here, my hand from clearing my cover garment is already at the perfect spot for me to just build that grip and index out on target.
Yeah, and again, that's like something you're only going to figure out if you kind of practice it and then go as fast as you can, and then you're like, you figure out where it breaks down. And then, so kind of related to that, so that's for the draw stroke, you know, getting the gun out, and then you have magazine changes. So it kind of depends on where you're carrying it. In this holster setup that I have today, it's carried appendix, the spare magazine, and you're carrying on the side, right?
Yep.
Okay. So for me, actually, this was a big breakthrough. Shout out to Jeff Bourne, our director of training here at Patriot Training Center. I was trying to, when I was drawing, you know, and I said I come up from the bottom, and I had the gun out, I was going down and trying to grab the hem and bring it up high, and then grab the magazine. And actually, I would get fouled up more often with that, and I would get the magazine caught on my shirt. So actually, I was talking back and forth to Jeff, and we were talking about kind of the alternative to that, right? Is grabbing over the top, like we were talking about before, kind of the plucking and then pinning it. And that's been a lot more consistent for me. And I think it's probably because, like I said before, my hands are already up here, so now it's a shorter distance to come down to the over top of the magazine, and I'm basically right in between the gun and the magazine, and I'm plucking and pulling, and then my hands right there, and then getting the magazine this way. And that's been a lot more consistent. I get hung up on the t-shirt a whole lot less, and that's pretty much how I do it. How do you do it from the
Yeah, so
side?
the way I do it is I come up and in like that, so I kind of pluck it off to the side and then get a grip on it, come that way. The thing you have to combat when you're drawing a magazine is with a gun, you have both hands, right? You have one to clear the cover garment and then one to build that grip on the pistol. This one, you're having to pin it So that plucking method works really great because you're getting that out of the way, but you're using one hand because your other hand will be on the gun. So finding a good way to build that to where you're not fumbling with it, but you're also able to like actually grip the magazine in a repeatable way, so you can be quick on those reloads is super important.
And I think I've heard a couple of people talk about you can kind of play with where it's more comfortable and where it's like easier to access too for the spare magazine. Because I've heard a couple of people say that getting it to the magazine, the shirt's less of a problem when it's on the side. Like I feel like there's less material to clear there. Do you find that to be the case? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's not like a super intense thing that I would argue with somebody on the internet about how to do it. I think you can kind of figure out what works for you. Just like we're doing here, we're just kind of going through the motions, and then you go fast and you try to figure out where it breaks down and find something that's like consistent and repeatable, even when you're trying to go at speed, because you know, it's obviously important if you can't get the gun out. And as you saw, we did the whole thing here. We're not shooting any live fire. You can figure all this out in dry fire, which is why we have the free dry fire program that's down in the description below. Great way to practice reloads, practice everything else for the fundamentals of shooting. So that's it, and we'll see you in the next video.